This is Gay News Radio with Brandon Carmody, featuring Roddy Biggs, Samuel, Lora, and Special Agent Jay.
It's time to meet the staff of Gay News Radio. Samuel Lora has published 5 books, including poetry, short stories, and photography. He currently contributes to Gay News Radio and Wild Planet Radio. Tell us about the work that you do.
Well, I am a writer, and I've been publishing my work for a handful of years. I've been involved with blogging for the past 6 years. I've gotten into photography on both sides of the lens, a little bit of music, and then this year I've become involved with radio and podcasting work.
What will your role at GNR be, and what would you like to accomplish?
I will contribute to the site in the best way that I can, as a commentator, as a panel member, and I look forward to seeing what we can do as a group when it comes to LGBTQIA content, and bringing a new perspective to the news world.
Who in the LGBTQIA community inspires you, and why?
I think that there are many wonderful individuals who are no longer with us and who are alive now who are very inspiring. I think right now with the trans movement, I've been inspired by a lot of people, and I think Laverne Cox is at the top of that. Not necessarily because she's a famous person, but she's really eloquent in the way that she does what she does and educates in the way that she does. But there are a lot of wonderful individuals out there who don't get recognized, so hopefully through Gay News Radio we'll be able to share that. But lots and lots of people soon to come.
What music do you love to listen to, and are there any members of the community or allies among them?
Of course there are. I love pop music. That's my primary love, and I blame my father because I grew up listening to ABBA and Elton John, who I think have inspired most of the pop people in the world. But yes, I love the Sister Sisters. I love Coco Rosie. I love so many different people. But yeah, pop music seems to be at the top of my list, but electronica and a lot of experimental music, like Coco Rosie, I think are pretty interesting, and lyrics are really important to me. So I love Jason Mraz, I love Julieta Venegas, a lot of queer and pseudo-queer people, which I love, to be at a point where I'm listening and seeing people who are maybe not like fully queer, but like queer in some way, and I love it. Queer, queer, queer.
Are these the top 7 LGBTIA issues? Queer and trans youth homelessness?
That is really important and definitely a big issue. Yeah, I'm very passionate about that. I think a lot of people don't understand how much this affects us in our community at a very young age when it comes to parents throwing children out into the world without the means with which to survive. So I think that's definitely a conversation that doesn't happen often enough, and I've loved the work that visible people like Miley Cyrus and Cyndi Lauper have done when it comes to queer, homeless, housing, and all that. So yeah, definitely a big issue.
Violence against queer and trans people?
This is a very sad portion of that because I think it's at the forefront of LGBT news content out there right now, but it's sort of, it seems like it's more about the fashion of what trans means to heteronormative America or the world. It's sort of a fantastical type thing for a lot of people, and so it's not taken seriously. It's more about famous people who had surgery and now have a different body. Do they look good? And it's not about, there's actually violence out there. And yeah, that's really sad. So I think that's also a big issue because it's really discussed but not discussed in the way it should be. So yeah, I think that a lot of people probably don't understand the importance of talking about that because, I mean, this goes beyond sexual orientation. It walks into gender, and gender is still such a mind fluster for a lot of people. They don't understand how it gets to the physical self. So yeah, I'm really not being eloquent about this answer, but yeah, it's a big issue.
Racial injustice.
Well, this is an issue that is not necessarily queer, but it does sort of add to it. And when there is a lot of homophobia and transphobia and all of that, the racial aspect really ups the ante, unfortunately. And a lot of people just are... It's almost like doubling the disrespect and hatred that's out there. But, unfortunately, this is happening across the board, and we've seen that in the United States in the past few years when it comes to violence because of race, which is such an archaic thing. But, yeah, definitely an issue that affects us all.
Immigrant injustice.
Well, I'm an immigrant, so that's part of my American DNA, I guess. But yeah, that's a big issue, especially when it comes to marriage equality, and again, it's something that goes across the board, but it's changing for our community because now marriage equality is sort of part of the everyday life, and so there are a lot of stories and myths when it comes to people moving into this country to have better futures and how we deal with that. So definitely a lot of misconceptions when it comes to queer immigrants, and now again the availability of maybe marrying for a citizenship, for papers, and trying to do that. So yeah, again, it goes back to the racial issues within the community at large when it comes to this whole weird conservative idea when it comes to like Mexico and like all this stuff, and then when it comes to the economy, really being hateful and not educated about jobs and like foreigners taking our jobs, and this idea that like I think the issue is the level of patriotism that we've been fed, especially after 9/11, has created this really weird inconsistent, insane, unapologetic personality type that's like, I'm an American. It's like, yeah, we all are Americans, but that doesn't mean that we have to stand by stereotypes of immigrants and what they're trying to do here. They're just trying to do the best that they can. And the United States is not the best country, but it's one of the ones where you can come and build a better future, and that's always been available to everybody. And it's at the cornerstone and at the building blocks of what the country has always been. So it's just like this really bizarre world in which we live, where it's like, oh, we don't want you here, but in a way we want you to do certain things we don't want to do anyway. So yeah, take those jobs. And it's like, yeah.
LGBTQIA health?
Again, this is something that goes across the board. Unfortunately, what we have to consider is the issues which we face by being queer in this society, and how health is part of that. At first, the thing that I think about is mental health, and that's been a huge conversation within the queer community when it comes to the trans community, when it comes to the gay male community, or queer male community, when it comes to any kind of mental health, depression, etc. And so that's where my mind goes. And we're still living in a society that wants you to adhere to a mental illness, but wants to toss you aside if you do have one. So it's almost like, oh yeah, you should get checked and go to a doctor and get the right medication for it. But if you do, then you're an outsider, and we don't want to deal with you. So that's what comes up for me. But health-wise, I mean, when it comes to healthcare, I know so many people who are not insured. And I think it's also, to be honest, the idea of healthcare is changing with the younger generation, because the younger generation is trying, I think, in a larger percentage maybe than before, attempting to live better lives and detaching themselves from all these systems that are faltering. Not only because healthcare is not affordable for a lot of people, but also because it keeps you tied to a certain system, and they're making money off of you in a way. So I think a lot of people, if you look into the vegan vegetarian movement, when you look into the holistical movements, and more people are really interested in yoga and acupuncture and all those things, because they're realizing that they can try to do, even if they do something with an institution, not only is it more affordable, but it's also something that you can let go and not feel totally trapped by, the medical system, which is like, oh yeah, we want you to like figure out what you have, but then we own you, and like you're gonna be taking pills forever, and side effects and all that stuff. So anyway, so I think that's changing, and I think that maybe that's why a lot of people are more comfortable not having healthcare. But yeah, I guess it's just an issue across the board, really. So maybe people just feel that they can control their healths more than they want to relinquish that responsibility. Money. Telling you that the whole economic system is allowing the faltering of it, the changes of it are making a lot of people think, you know what, maybe we should start, like growing our own food and like being healthy and not doing stupid things that later on will catch up with us, and that way we don't have to adhere to like, oh, I don't need to necessarily get checked by a doctor or a nurse or whatever every amount of time, and then pay and then worry about insurance and all that stuff. It's a fear-based thing to me, and to a lot of people it seems. So maybe it's improving. But yeah, mental health, that's what came up first for me.
This is GNR, Gay News Radio.